Hello, my name is Derek. Uh, I am making a YouTube video right now, of course. Well, maybe it's not just for YouTube. Really, it's just a movie recording. I will upload it to YouTube, but regardless, I digress. I am here to talk about face masks. All right, now here's the deal. We're taking as a society, I think people feel instinctively they want to take an approach that will not work, okay, as far as being able to get a society to a state where we don't have to wear face masks, where COVID is a thing of the past, and all that stuff, okay? Here's what it comes down to. The reason we have to wear face masks is because it has been proven that face masks may inhibit the spread of the virus called COVID 19, right? So rather than trying to say that that's wrong, let's roll with it and say, okay, maybe it can slow down the spread under certain circumstances. But I believe that in order to be able to get rid of face masks, we are going to, one, prove that they cause shallow breathing. You feel out of breath when you wear them. Number two, prove they repress your immune system. Number three, and I'll come back over these, okay? We need to prove that they increase CO2 and decrease oxygen intake. Not a lot, but a little bit. That needs to be proven. We need to have a study that literally proves the amount of oxygen reaching your lungs is a different amount. Okay? We need to prove that they increase the humidity of your breath because that can change the growing conditions under which bacteria manifest and grow in your lungs. We need to prove that CO2 binds to red blood cells more than oxygen. And that is true. They actually do, which causes, obviously, circulation problems, oxygenation problems. It can basically, anyways, I'll continue down the list. We need to prove the damage to social communication. Smile, frown, think. All these in a conversation, moving my eyebrows, right? But if I'm smiling and I raise my eyebrows, that means something different than if I frown and I move my eyebrows, or I move one eyebrow or the other. It's instinctive social communication we learned growing up. It is embedded in our society on the deepest level. Okay, anyways, we need to prove that because they interrupt this ability to communicate effectively, they cause depression because you get depressed because you're sad you can't communicate, right? We need to prove that. We need to prove that they increase suicide rates as a result of this. We need to prove that they inhibit police investigations. You can't see what the officer is feeling, he can't see what you're feeling. From the officer's perspective, how can they accurately judge whether or not you're telling them the truth? Whether or not, like, what if you're a really creepy psychopath and you're smiling and like, whatever, when you just killed a man, but you're able to keep your eyes straight while you are smiling and be like, the officer can't see that. You don't even know, who walks among you. This is stuff that we naturally would know, but now they have a free pass to get away with stuff because the officer wouldn't go, that's weird, I should investigate that further, right? Instead, he doesn't see that. And also, he mislabels people who aren't doing that and thinks that they are because he can't see them. He thinks, oh, an eye movement, he might be smiling. You make a lot of inferences, you make a lot of assumptions, and these assumptions lead to incorrect procedures, artificially inflamed emotions, all kinds of problems. So they inhibit police investigation. And we also need to prove that they inhibit effective communication because, well, that ties in with everything else I just said. We need to prove the long-term side effects, not of just wearing a face mask, but prove the long-term side effects of the things the face mask causes. What are the long-term side effects of living in an environment where you have increased CO2 levels for a long period of time, along with an increased humidity and stuff like that? Think about it like this. I know this is a off topic, kind of seems like, but it's not, okay? Mushrooms. What do mushrooms breathe in? They breathe in CO2. Wrong. They breathe in oxygen and release CO2. But there's a lot of bacteria that breathe in CO2 and release oxygen or some other thing. I mean, that's the whole point of bacteria and things like that, like making alcohol, for example. You make alcohol by using bacteria's natural ability to convert one substance to another. Okay? When COVID attacks your lung tissue, it latches onto a receptor that is the same one that that you use an inhaler for. Um, that receptor that it latches onto, and then it injects its material, the cell explodes and dies, and now there's a bunch of random cell material that's just sitting around in the bottom of your lungs. The COVID, yeah, destroyed one or two, whatever, a bunch of these cells, which there's not very much of in your lungs. Sure, but it's the foreign contaminants that are now littering the bottom of your lungs that your body actually attacks because of the bacteria that feast on them. So, in response to that, your body produces mucus. When your body produces mucus, it's because it then fills up the lungs. The mucus picks up those things at the bottom of your lungs or throughout your lungs. It cleans them up like a cleaning service, and then little tiny hairs bring it up to the top of your lungs to where the tubes are where you breathe. That those little flaps that close off when you swallow to prevent liquid from going into your lungs. Those flaps are open when you breathe, and so the hairs push the mucus up and over the ledge and into your stomach, basically, as it falls down. So that way, when you, and they also, that's why when you cough, when you're sick, you get stuff out, because the mucus is there to try to help clean your lungs from this foreign contaminant. Okay? If this happens, if your body produces too much mucus and it crosses a certain line of mucus production due to too much carnage from your lungs being destroyed or attacked, or there's a foreign contaminant it doesn't like, then that causes you to develop pneumonia, because now that increases the amount of stuff that bacteria can grow in. So bacteria love growing in mucus. Okay, so if your body goes, hey, let's put a ton of mucus in there, now let's take that mucus out, but it does that for a long enough period of time, your body will naturally start having a buildup of other bacteria that are not COVID-19 starting to grow. And those bacteria are what cause the actual pneumonia. It's not the COVID. The COVID just creates the environment that your body wants to clean itself out, and then it does that for too long. And it's actually the process of your lungs cleaning themselves out that is the side effects that we're noticing as far as like the lung problems and ventilators. Okay, ventilators, let's get to that. They force you to breathe in and out to try to decrease the work that your lungs have to do. Okay, that's what they do, right? They ventilate you. But that actually causes more damage because you're forcing air deep into your lungs, of your lungs that are starting to not be efficient enough at oxygen production because of the bacteria that are growing in them are clogging up the pores in your lungs, and it's decreasing the amount of oxygen that's being extracted from the air that you're breathing. So putting someone who has COVID-19 and has probably beaten COVID-19 and now are just battling pneumonia, which is what it is going to cause basically a situation where it's not going to help them, because what they're needing is oxygen, and their lungs aren't providing that. So in this particular case, what we actually need is to put the person on a blood oxygenation system. If you put them on a blood oxygenation system and bypass the functioning of their lungs, you're going to be able to save their life, unless the bacteria gets too much for their lungs to be able to get out. So you need some way to not only do that, but if your mucus is the wrong consistency, that can cause problems. So we need some way to control the humidity of their lungs. So if you have them on this ECMO machine, while also controlling the humidity of their lungs to counteract all that stuff, then maybe that could help as well. So also, if you change the temperature of the air going into their lungs every once in a while, so it's not consistent and bacteria growing enabling. So say, for example, you bring it to a really high temperature or a really low temperature, that will cause bacteria to be killed off. So not only that, but that could potentially kill off COVID. So you need to figure out how to integrate that into it as well, obviously. And then basically you figure these things out, and then you start figuring out how to cure pneumonia, right? Of course, we're trying to push a vaccine that'll cause our bodies to attack the virus in the first place, which is concerning because then you start the battlefield higher up. So that means now your body has been producing mucus for an even longer period of time, which could actually cause the whole thing to be a lot worse. Plus, it could result in a situation where just changing those conditions. So we need to have a lot more studies done before we let this vaccine go mainstream, okay? Or else we're going to have a lot bigger of problems on our hands. Now, I'm actually working on building a machine that does the aforementioned things, that controls your temperature, oxygen level of the air that you're breathing. You know, it control to counteract the fact that you're wearing face masks, changing you to have CO2 levels be higher, which binds to your blood cells more, decreases oxygenation, you know, causes you to feel out of breath, that represses your immune system. You know, I mean, we have a lot of things to take into account. You know, you got to think about vitamin C, drinking orange juice. Does your body have everything it needs? What's the first thing? This is another thing. What is the first thing to go when your body has inadequate resources? Is it muscle mass? Is it fat? Is it bone density? Is it your immune system itself? No, none of those things. What the first thing to go, the least essential part of the body, I know this is counterintuitive, but it's the brain. I mean, you can still run away from that bear that wants to eat you or that lion that's chasing you if you have fewer brain cells. But if you run out of muscle mass, now you can't be as strong. You may not be able to climb that tree. You may break the bone in your arm while you're running. You may, you know, all the other systems on your system are absolutely essential. But the first thing to go is your brain cells. But obviously your brain, the thinking part, is more important than your ability to feel. So your body's not going to just go, oh, we're going to just cut off all sensation to your hand. No, the body will take one here, one here, one. It'll go, okay, we don't have as much oxygenation to our hands right now because those are the peripheral part of the body. You know, if you get cold, your core stays warm, your arms are less essential, your fingers are less essential than that. Your core stays warm, your legs are less essential, your toes are less essential than your feet that are less essential than your legs. So your body goes, okay, based on the priorities, we're going to make it basically we don't have as much oxygen, therefore we cannot support as many neurons and nerve cells at a time. So we're going to decrease the number of sensory neurons in your fingers. And your sense of taste will decrease that. Will decrease the sense of everything like that. And also decrease the number of brain cells that you have to listen to those. Because, okay, I just lost a nerve cell in this part of my hand, so obviously that goes up to and processes in this part of my brain. All the areas of my brain that process that system are no longer necessary. They're doing nothing. So then your body automatically deletes that as well. Now you've freed up the amount of oxygen your body is going through. But what does your body do with all that excess CO2 that's binding to your red blood cells? And also for your white blood cells, which are not as effective at doing what they do. See, that's a problem. That just builds up and builds up in your system until those cells die, and then your body's getting rid of those cells, is producing more red blood cells to compensate, which means that higher production rate of cells means that they're reproducing more often, just like if you are exposed to radioactive material that'll make your cells die quicker, then that puts a higher load on your body's ability to get rid of those cells, which means one of those cells has a higher chance of turning cancerous. Well, in the same way, if you make your body produce more red blood cells, your body has a higher chance of turning cancerous in producing or developing more cancerous red blood cells. And not only that, your lymph nodes, the parts of your body that produce the white blood cells, those experience all the same things that every other part of your body does. And so they have a decreased functioning as well because, eventually we get to the point where we're just trying to survive and eat food. And that is our base essential need. We're just trying to have shelter. That is a base essential need. We're now in the middle of a depression, which means there's higher numbers of people on the streets and all that stuff, right? Those people are in fight or flight, which means that their immune systems are repressed for the fact that they are in flight or flight. So now you have a situation where people are repressed immune system from fight or flight, repressed immune system from decreased oxygen intake, repressed social communication leading to higher anxiety and depression and suicide rates, and it also goes to children who have lower ability to communicate with their parents effectively because nobody is helping them understand how to do that. So we have decreased school systems, which is causing that to get worse, and a whole host of other problems. You have officers misdiagnosing people. People who are officers just want to watch out for your safety. They don't want you to be hurt by someone worse. They are protecting you. That's the point of becoming a police officer. So they can't protect you if they can't tell what you're feeling. It all boils down to emotional intelligence. And in this type of environment, guess what type of person is going to be able to absolutely excel more than anyone else ever? Any other type of personality type? That's going to be narcissists. That's going to be what do you call them? Lindsay, what are those called? She's not listening to me right now. She's on her phone. That's okay. I'll try to remember. Oh, psychopath. That's the word I was looking for. Psychopaths as well. Sociopaths. All those people really rely on isolating a person from their family. And that's a lot easier to do when you don't have healthy friend groups. Not only that, people feel isolated. They feel lonely. When people feel isolated and lonely, then they have a reduced ability to be able to hold proper healthy boundaries because they become desperate for some kind of social connection. You're sitting at home, you get lonely, you start really needing that social connection because we're addicted to social connection. That's the whole point of drug abuse, the study that done with the mice, is if you have a bunch of lonely people in the population, that's going to cause there to be higher addiction rates. People are not only going to have higher addiction rates because they're lonely and have fewer healthy boundaries, but you're going to have a breakdown of like the marriage system. That's what's happening, right? Not only that, but sometimes those people will be seen as the enemy as well, not just anything else, but they'll actually be seen as dangerous. They'll be perceived as a threat because for some reason they aren't as affected by this loneliness as you are, and you're so desperate to find someone who you can connect with, to really be able to connect to someone that you see someone walking down the street who's married or has a healthy friend group, and they seem like a threat to you because they're what's stopping society from paying attention to the problem you're personally undergoing, where you can't connect to who you need to connect with to feel okay inside because of how lonely you are, because of how isolated we all are, because you can't see people's expressions walking down the street. You don't know what they think of you. You feel less inclined to take care of your body. You feel less inclined to go out and do what needs to be done. You feel less like making an effort to communicate. You feel like giving up, and you get depressed and suicidal because you start feeling like, what's the point? You start wandering your existence, and you just start getting worse and worse and worse, and eventually you start getting frustrated and angry, and then before you know it, you have riots in the street, and you have people that are getting angry, people who are perfectly rational minded, that used to work every day of their lives. That's all they wanted to do. They wanted to work themselves and have kids and then die. And that was what they wanted to do with their life. And now they can't do that. You have people, all that stuff happening. And so what it comes down to is, I'm not saying that anyone is to blame for the face masks, okay? I'm not saying anyone is to blame right now. I think we are all in a difficult situation. This means the president, whoever the president is, it doesn't matter. There's things that are more important in life than who is or is not president. Okay, the Congress makes the laws, the executive branch enforces those laws. Okay, the Congress is the courts, it controls the court system. The executive branch enforces the laws made by the court system, and the president is a figurehead that monitors our relationship with other countries. They keep us safe from them. They, that's what they're supposed to be for. All right. Now our government had, or our president declared a state of emergency, right, a while ago, but that hasn't that been decreased? I mean, how does that tie into executive orders? Those things. What it comes down to is people don't know, they don't understand how these things work very well. They don't understand that the reason we have to wear face masks is because face masks have not been proven to be a greater risk than the protections that they offer from COVID. They have not been proven to be a risk for our country. They have not been scientifically proven beyond a reasonable doubt. Okay? Once you can do that, scientifically prove it beyond a reasonable doubt, then things will change. Okay? I actually personally have the question. Inhalers, all right, they act on the same receptors. Albuterol inhalers act on the same receptors that the virus does. Okay, my question is, do inhalers trigger the COVID-19 test? If you actually check this, then if they do, then that means that there's a good chance that COVID was successfully extinguished. And what we are now experiencing is that wearing face masks for a majority of the population, doing average activities, not standing in a hospital where you're not doing very much heavy lifting, you're not doing hard work, you're doing hard work of a different sort. And it's for a period of time. You take the face masks off in between, so on and so forth. And plus, since they repress your immune system, think about doctors. They get sick with stuff, and people say, oh, it's just because hospitals are there's more bacteria and viruses and stuff like that in hospitals, so the person in the hospital is more likely to catch something. Well, there's also a correlation there. Doctors wear face masks. They always have for a long time. Okay? So, is the face mask inhibiting the doctor's immune system without them realizing it? Is it is it? I mean, we don't know. Have we done a test on it? Have we checked it? Have we officially confirmed? I mean, we know that it decreases CO2 and increases humidity, but have we done scientifically held studies where we have written research papers on it, written Wikipedia articles on it, referred people to those Wikipedia articles, and made it common knowledge that everyone is aware of? Because if we do all of that, then we have a chance to make a difference in the world. That's the point of living in America, is that we the people can work together to prove something, and then once that thing is proven beyond a reasonable doubt, we can use that information as an argument to back up and prove how to change a law and stuff like that, okay? So that's what I wanted to talk to you guys about. Please, I implore you, leave comments. Please link this to your friends. Please share this around. I want to have an open discussion on all of this stuff that has nothing to do with the president, has nothing to do with the current state of political affairs. Those things don't matter, okay? We need to have a discussion that is serious on just systematic approaches and logic and being thoughtful and things like that. Okay? Now, that's what I wanted to say. I hope you have a wonderful day. This is now entering the outro section. Hello, this is the outro section. Um, if you are having problems with your face mask making you feel out of breath, and you've noticed that your mind has been foggy and it's been harder to think, I recommend trying lion's mane mixed with fish oil and also mixed with electrolytes and anything that can help production of red blood cells, because your body needs a lot of those right now. All right, I hope you guys have a fantastic day. I know that those things that I just mentioned helped me to feel a lot better at times when I previously was having a lot of struggles and trouble. All right, well, guess what today is? Today is 2/8/2021. So I hope you have a fantastic February. Peace out, all. Bye.